And blessed to be part of your day. Kevin Miller in the morning here on KIDO Talk Radio. More of your calls on our top story. Matt Lauer getting the boot from the Today Show. We'll be seeing you, Matt. In addition to that, do want to remind you, Friday we'll be at the Idaho Chooses Life banquet at Eagle Christian Church, idahochooseslife.org. If you'd want more information, you can check out Ron Crane will be speaking. David Ripley will be speaking. I'll be there lumbering around as usual and promoting great conservative causes here in the Treasure Valley. Joining us now is a gentleman who is vacationing in Mexico, and if I believe the photos, he's enjoying fun in the sun with a young lady next to him in a bikini. He is congressional candidate Nick Henderson, a gentleman who has served our nation. We thank him for his service, and we appreciate him joining us here today. Mr. Henderson, good morning, sir.
Well, good morning, Kevin, and I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to call in. Certainly nice and sunny down here.
Well, we appreciate your commitment to public service that you're joining us on your vacation. So that is you in Mexico right now. Is that correct, sir?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, well, I don't really get out much, and as we get to know each other, you'll know I just kind of live through radio, television, and social media. Let's talk a little bit about yourself. Perhaps this is the first time folks here in the Treasure Valley are hearing about you. I've floated your name a few times since you've decided to run for Congress. Tell us a little bit about yourself, sir.
Absolutely. I am, like you mentioned, a veteran of the United States Army. I served in the Iraq War. I did a year over in Iraq. And after leaving the military, I went on to become a commercial pilot. And that's what I do professionally right now, is I'm a commercial aviator. Was born in Coeur d'Alene, up there in the panhandle of Idaho, and that is currently where I'm living right now. I've just resettled back into Post Falls. And outside of that, I'm not sure what else I need, what you're looking for.
Oh, well, we'll get to that. We'll get to that, sir.
Yeah.
By the way, thank you for your thank you for your service, by the way.
Well, I appreciate that, and that is something that is very near and dear to my heart. Veterans issues are something that if you've been following the campaign, you'll know that veterans issues are something that I'm really strong on, and that is because of, those are our heroes, and they're great people. We need to do as much as we can to help them, and that's because of my service. I've seen it firsthand.
Well, let's get right to it. You're a young man. You're successful. You're a commercial pilot. You're living the good life. Why jump into this race to begin with? You said the veterans issues, but again, and we're happy to have you. We need more people, successful, young, old, what have you, jumping into this race. So why do this, sir?
Yeah, certainly, and that is something that I guess every candidate has to really do a little bit of soul searching before they jump into a race to figure out why the heck they want to do it. And I listened to your interview the other day with Russ Fulcher, and you asked him a similar question about the state of the body of Congress, and you asked why he would even want to be a part of such a kind of a toxic organization. And kind of gave me a chance to think about that. I really don't want to be a part of that toxic organization, and the problem is how toxic and kind of poisonous Congress has become. And from back in Idaho, I've just kind of watched this kind of diseased body of government get worse and worse and worse, and I've been seeing us send the status quo, the same people back, and the problem has only worsened. It's finally reached a tipping point, and that's where I come in. I've said, listen, this is not working. We need to get in there, and frankly, to borrow a phrase from President Trump, we need to drain the swamp. And we can't keep sending politicians and lawyers and the same people to D.C., and that's where I come in. I'm the outsider. I'm a pilot. I'm a commercial pilot, and I want to get in there and I want to fix this thing, fix Congress, and get it back to representing the people and not the people that are lining the representatives' pocketbooks.
Nick Henderson joining us. By the way, sir, if people want more information, what is the best way that they can get a hold of you?
The easiest way to get more information is to go to our website. That's nickhenderson.vote. And, of course, we're also on all platforms of social media. We're Henderson for Congress on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, YouTube. But the best way to get a hold of us is nickhenderson.vote. And we use that vote domain because we really want to get people to get out and vote. Huge American right to do that. We need to encourage more turnout at these midterm elections.
Nick, Mr. Henderson, let's continue on here when we take a look at your path to victory. Of course, all roads lead to the Treasure Valley in the 1st Congressional District. You've got a lot of big names down here. Your plan to get your name out, your plan, and I know it's only November, your plan to get folks familiar with you, sir.
Right. Well, we've been kind of looking at a different strategy to what you would say is maybe a traditional campaign approach. A lot of that comes from us kind of being in the younger. I think I am the youngest candidate running right now, and so we've got a fresh perspective on how we're going to do that. Of course, I'm going to be down there in the Treasure Valley. I'm going to be spending a lot of time down there in the coming months as we work our way up towards the primary in May. But we're doing a lot of work through social media presence and targeted marketing. We're going to do a lot of kind of town hall style events where we're getting into the community and just sitting down and maybe having some food and some drink and meeting people that way. But if you believe the statistics and you look at the science behind it, most Americans now are getting all of their news and their information through social media channels. So we're really focusing there.
I see. Of course, you're still going to have to hit the ground game. So let's talk about a few issues, and we understand we have you for a limited time here at KIDO Talk Radio. Nick Henderson with us as we continue on. Mr. Henderson, let's talk a little bit about tax reform in the budget, the same thing we talked about with Russ Fulcher, with Mr. Fulcher yesterday. How do you see this process going on, and what perspective do you bring if elected?
Right. You know, I'm really encouraged by the fact that we're even seeing an effort to reform taxing in Congress right now. The House bill, just recently passed the House, and the Senate bill is working its way through. Frankly, I think those are steps in the right direction. I think we are needing to simplify the tax code, and they're working really hard to do that. I don't believe that either tax bill really goes far enough yet. There's glaring omissions in the House bill. One of the students I spoke to, I recently had an event at a coffee shop in Coeur d'Alene, and one of the students I spoke to mentioned that the ability to write off your student loan payments on taxes has been removed. And that's a problem in my mind, just because I look at this crippling student loan debt that all of our students are kind of saddled with now, and that's going to hurt them. So there's good things about the current tax reform bills that are going through. It is going to make our tax code simpler, and it's going to make it easier. But I view what they're doing right now as first steps. What we need to go in is we need to go back in and kind of put those provisions in place to protect kind of vulnerable citizens or citizens that are really dependent on maybe writing off their student loan debt on their taxes. In terms of a fresh perspective, though, I think we're moving in the right direction. I think we could do more to simplify the tax code.
Nick Henderson, our guest, Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio, candidate for the first CD. So you're going to be spending a lot of time down here doing social media, being, some of these new practices that bring some type of innovation to the political spectrum. Anything you want to say about your opponents at all? Do you know them at all? And, again, you're way up north. So, again, for people here in the Treasure Valley, what do you think of most of the candidates? I think with the exception of you and Mr. Snyder, everybody else is from down here.
Right, yeah, we are. I believe, Luke Malik is also from up north as well. He's local, too. Of course, we're doing our opposition research. My team and I have been looking at everyone that's been entering in. And Christy Perry, she just threw her hat into the arena. So we've got a really wide race right now. I think the thing I want to say most about my opponents is I want you to kind of look at the list of who's running. You've got former senator, current sitting representative, the former lieutenant governor. And I would like to ask the people of Idaho, look at who's running. We've got career politicians, be it, these short-term 5-10-year guys or these long-term guys that have been in it for a while. Career politicians are the problem. We've been sending them to D.C., and D.C.'s been getting worse, and we've got a field that's full of them right now. They may have done some great things for Idaho. I know just from reading the papers, a few of them have a little bit of a liberal voting history for a conservative. I worry about sending those people to D.C. because you might create another rhino, someone who's not really representative of the traditional family and conservative values that really define Idaho. So we got a lot of career politicians that are running. I'm not that. I'm a pilot. I'm an outsider. And I think that's what we need in D.C. right now is some fresh blood, some fresh perspective.
Mr. Henderson, as a veteran, we talked about this with Russ Fulcher yesterday, so we'll ask you the same question. Your thoughts on the situation with North Korea and the idea that you might have to vote to take action against them, a war against them.
Right, absolutely, and that's something I've always said, and this is very just common knowledge in the military. The last people who want to go to war are the soldiers, and that's because we pay the ultimate price out there on the front line. The difference being between the American citizen and the soldier is that we're willing to do that, go put ourselves between the enemy and our country and defend liberty and freedom wherever that is. North Korea has certainly been making a lot of noise. They've been rattling their saber these last couple of years, but they've really gotten vocal these last few months. And yesterday they had that successful ICBM launch, which is really kind of alarming. They say now they can reach mainland USA with that missile. So you're right, we may have to vote on something in terms of war with North Korea. I think the most prudent steps right now will be continuing to work on economic sanctions and a multilateral approach using China, the Philippines, South Korea, our allies, our Asian allies in the area, to make sure that it's not the U.S. leading the charge there.
Nick Henderson joining us once again, Mr. Henderson. If people want to get a hold of you, what can they do?
Yeah, best way to get a hold of us is to go to the website nickhenderson.vote. There's a contact form on there that gives you an email straight to us. There's a phone number that goes straight to the campaign committee. And, of course, we're on all platforms of social media.
So are you reluctant or excited about jumping in?
It's been an exciting process. It's certainly something that I approached with some caution. I'm not coming to this with a background in politics. And there's a lot of learning to be done. It's a huge curve, a learning curve for getting into this. So it's certainly presented a unique set of challenges. I feel I'm very uniquely equipped to confront and handle these challenges, though. So I'm more excited than I am reluctant at this point. Again, like I said earlier in the show, though, I'm not trying to get elected to Congress to be in Congress. I'm a citizen of Idaho and the United States who's fed up with Congress.
Sure.
And frankly, we need to get the poison out.
Well, we look forward to having you in studio. I know we'll get you out on this one. What do you say to people, both professional politicians and pundits, that underestimate you, sir?
Yeah, I think that they're going to be very surprised in how strong our support is when it comes to the grassroots and the people and the citizens. You look at a cross-section of America, and they are tired of politicians. And I think that they're going to be very surprised, the politicians are, by the amount of support that we're generating on the ground.
Mr. Henderson, safe travels home. Of course, you're a pilot, so I think that's no big deal for you. But we appreciate you making time for us here on your vacation, and we look forward to seeing you in studio and around the Treasure Valley, sir.
Absolutely, Kevin. Thank you for having me on the show.
Take care.
Bye.
All right, bye-bye. Our great friend Nick Henderson. Let's go to R&R, who's been very patient. R&R, thank you for joining us. You're on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, sir. Thanks for your patience.
Thank you, Kevin. Hey, I'd just like to give my point in perspective. I worked for 45 years in an environment where it was about as politically savvy as you can get. I protected the youth from their perpetrators, and I was a safety net in the state of Oregon in a 24-hour facility. And in that workplace, and Cindy, the psych nurse, could probably relate, the women and the men in those facilities and the children, they all coexist, and nobody goes home and puts on their makeup and looks their best. And it's very imperative that male, female, and children are all on their best behavior. So, but here's my point. I've got a lot of background in a lot of things, especially human service, and here's a good teaching moment is if you just take the People magazine and look at every single page, which is just enhanced black and white dots with a bunch of color added to it. The drop terms these days are sexy or what's hot or blah, 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 but it's softcore pornography. Every page, and I just did this a couple of weeks ago because I teach adolescents not to get addicted to porn and images, but the People magazine is so insidious, and the concept of looking hot or looking sexy for opposite sex members or same sex members these days is where we're at. And on that subject, I got to say good riddance to Matt Lauer. You know, if he's worth millions of dollars. If he had a defense, he would have done it. So he's about as guilty as, in my professional opinion. In my professional opinion, next subject is most of us out here that really did work for 40 or 50 years in physical labor are sick of listening to liberal Steve in the morning. And I challenge him to do his homework. I seriously doubt if he went up and got the Merriam dictionary and looked up what vitriol means. I think it's time to hold a grand jury for the punk known as liberal Steve. I'm sick and tired of listening to his voice in the morning. And with that said, I appreciate all the work you did, especially with getting children food. And one of the greatest moments in the last 2 weeks was that young mother who talked about how her third grade son was able to get his life back in order and back in school and doing his homework. And lastly, the new governor of the state of Idaho is going to be Mr. Little, for integrity and what a good human being he is. And thanks for listening, Kevin.
Thank you, R&R. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye-bye. Phone numbers 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Your chance to respond next, plus the latest on North Korea. And, you know, how do you respond to that heartfelt comment about, you know, the idea of porn? And people joke about it and such. But it is a challenge. I can remember listening to somebody in church talking about people that are addicted to this and whatever happened to leaving something to the imagination. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Big topic of the day, Matt Lauer getting the boot from the Today Show. We can take your calls on that at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. But I do want to try and veer a little off of the pop culture scene, and we will take your calls on that. But I want to talk about North Korea next. First, traffic and weather together, our time. And Kevin Miller in the morning here. Phone numbers 580-5436, 580-KIDO. And, you know, we sit back and we take a look at these things and we wonder what's next. Yes, everybody's talking about Matt Lauer. Yes, everybody's talking about the Today Show and how tough it is. But if you heard R&R, you know, the tough thing is working physical manual labor each and every day in the cold elements. So much respect for everyone that does that. And really, what would happen if we have that lunatic, and I do mean that lunatic, in North Korea trying to take us out?
The successful launch was triumphantly announced on state-run media. Pyongyang saying the nuclear-capable intercontinental ballistic missile is significantly more powerful than any before, and that the country is now able to strike anywhere on the U.S. mainland. Defense Secretary James Mattis says South Korea responded by firing pinpoint missiles into nearby waters to make sure the North understands it can be taken under fire by the South. In Washington, Rachel Sutherland, Fox News.
You know, as we get ready to hear from Maggie from Channel 7 here in a minute, I do want you to think about this at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. By the way, I want to thank Nick Henderson for joining us, candidate for Congress, military veteran and such. Really was nice of him to join us from his vacation in Mexico. We'll talk more and more with those folks coming up. But back to this issue involving war and what we are and are not prepared to do when we're taking a look at a country that has nothing to lose, that shoot their own people. We saw that video last week, that shoot their own people who are trying to escape the oppression. You know, people, we're trying to build a wall to keep people out. North Korea has a wall to keep people in. I thought we got rid of that when we liberated Europe. And does it come down to the bully that sooner or later you have to face? Is that what we're looking at here? Or are our friends and friends like the Chinese and Russians who needs enemies, will they help us? We'll talk about it next. You're listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Maggie.
Good morning.
The president reassuring the nation that even though they fired a missile that apparently can reach any part of the country, not to worry. He's got it handled.
We will take care of that situation. It is a situation that we will handle.
Right. But you have General Mattis saying,
the bottom line is it's a continued effort to build a ballistic missile threat that endangers world peace, regional peace, and certainly the United States.
Sure. So what are we going to do about it, General?
The research and development effort on their part to continue building ballistic missiles that could threaten everywhere in the world.
So it comes down to this at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, what to do about it. And does it come down to, as Dave Petzel and I were talking about, you've got North Korea launching missiles and the stock market continuing to go crazy. Actually, it was Tea Party Bob and I talked about that. I want to make sure I give proper attribution. But when you think about this at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, the North Koreans are not backing down. By the way, you heard about that guy, that guy from North Korea that was shot. They shot at him 22 times. They hit him 5. They didn't kill him. And he was so, malnourished. He was so sick that there were actual parasites within his body, killing him. Yeah, killing him. Thankfully, he's in the South, but unfortunately for his parents, his family, his coworkers, they're all going to the labor camp. And no fun at the hard labor camp of North Korea. So he's going to the labor camp, or he's going to the hospital. He's going to recover, and everybody else is going to the labor camp. But, again, we can talk about Matt Lauer. We can go back and forth on this issue, which is the top trending topic, or what Angela Lansbury said when she said, hey, sometimes women are the problem, right? But this North Korean situation, especially with people that have had skin in the game, I'd like to hear what you have to think about that, because I think Kim Jong-un is playing for keeps. The question is, are we playing for keeps? The question is, what are we going to do to stop this guy when the missiles are firing over our head? I mean, we're talking about a missile that could hit Washington, D.C. Joining us now, a man that automatically raises the intelligentsia, ethical, moral, professional level of this program, John Decker, when he appears, and we appreciate that spike in all those elements. Live from the White House at Fox News Radio. Good morning, John.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's this is an issue that has continued to confront this president since he took office in January. These continuing ballistic missile tests by the North Koreans, the latest one yesterday. I was in the Roosevelt Room yesterday when the president reacted to this latest missile test by North Korea. And clearly the president says that, in his words, the U.S., he in particular, will take care of the problem. What that means, we don't know. The president also being briefed yesterday by James Mattis, the defense secretary, who also expressed his concern about North Korea's intercontinental ballistic missile test launch yesterday.
John Decker joining us on KIDO Talk Radio from Fox News Radio here. And here we thought it would just be a week on tax reform. It's Pocahontas, it's North Korea, and who knows what's going to happen today. And I just heard a minute ago he retweeted something about a Dutch boy. So where do we go from here?
Well, the president today will leave Washington, D.C. He's heading to St. Charles, Missouri. He'll make a final push for the benefits of his tax reform legislation. A vote on this legislation will take place as early as tomorrow, could move into Friday. But there's a lot of confidence right now in Republican ranks that this legislation will be passed ultimately by the Senate on the floor, whether it's this week or next, and the president will sign this legislation perhaps by the end of the year.
John, that's what I always admire about you, that you keep us on point. This could be just like an ADD segment when I'm looking at the president's tweets, retweeting some stuff. And, whether it's Matt Lauer, whether it's, attacking CNN and everything else. How do you handle this? Because it's information overload.
Well, it is. How do you handle it? You just do, because every moment of the day is one in which the news cycle can change. We saw that yesterday when we got the news of North Korea, and that kind of superseded the news of Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer boycotting this planned visit here at the White House to talk about keeping the government funded. And you mentioned Twitter. Not only is the president this morning talking about Matt Lauer's firing, but he's also talking about the fact that he did have a conversation with the president of China, Xi Jinping, concerning North Korea. So this is an issue that obviously continues to stymie the president. I think that he was under the belief that China would be doing much more to hold North Korea in check, and it's quite clear that they haven't. This was the first ballistic missile strike, or test, I should say, since September the 15th, and the president, I think, especially after his Asia trip, perhaps thought that they were moving in the direction of a diplomatic solution, and North Korea obviously doesn't want to go in that direction.
John Decker, a final question for you here at KIDO Talk Radio. What was it like in the White House briefing room where you have Sarah Sanders going back and forth about Pocahontas?
Well, look, this is, I think this was something where you've heard the expression, there's a time and a place for everything. I think that as the president's remarks regarding Senator Warren, were inappropriate in the sense that I don't think it was the appropriate time or place for them. Now, as far as Senator Warren is concerned, she did indeed falsely claim that she is of Native American origin, and that's just not the case. And that's the reason I think why the president continues to needle her on that by calling her that name, Pocahontas. You may have seen that that Senator Warren referred to it as a racially tinged phrase. I don't know if the president means it in that way. I think he's just trying to be cute in calling her that. That being said, this was an event in which it was honoring Native Americans for their important work in World War II. The focus should have just squarely been on those incredible Americans rather than, bringing Senator Warren into the mix. And, as far as Sarah Sanders, look, she continues to defend this president. And, part of that is her job. And it's difficult sometimes when the president says or tweets something that I think some people would argue is inappropriate or the wrong time or place for saying or tweeting those things.
We don't call him the Stone Cold Steve Austin of politics for without reason. John Decker, we always appreciate you, sir.
Kevin, thanks a lot. You have a great day. I appreciate it. Have a great day.
Thank you, John. Bye. Our great friend John Decker. Kevin Miller in the morning here. We're talking North Korea and Matt Lauer. Let's go to Ronnie from Caldwell at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Ronnie.
Hey, dude, what's up? I was wondering if maybe sometime you could do a build-up for me like that, like you did for him.
How would that work?
John Decker. You just said like every time he calls, things get better and things get smarter and stuff
he
like
does.
that.
I mean, John Decker teaches people in college how to be a journalist. John Decker is a lawyer. John Decker worked for Senator Hines. He's written a book. What have you done?
I've done a lot of things, dude. Mine are more life experiences. So sorry if I didn't go to college for you, but I still think you could do something cool like that. And
it's not about going to college. It's about he raises the intellectual level. I mean, and I'm talking about myself more than anybody else.
I did. I do that for you too, all the time. Sometimes I even bring you breaking news.
I don't know if you really raise the intellectual level of the program in the same way that John Decker does. With all due respect.
I can't believe it.
Are you jealous of John Decker?
Dude, I'll tell you something. I'm a little down right now, and here's why. They're taking Matt Lauer down, and he's one of my all-time heroes. And I always think that to be a ladies' man, and I know you were a ladies' man before, but now you're not, but you have to have an edge to you, and everybody's getting accused of doing something sexually wrong, and nobody's accused me of nothing, dude, and I sort of feel like I lost my edge.
I think I was about as ladies' man as much as Chris Farley was. You know,
at least he tried, though.
Not more, perhaps wanting to be a Chuck Norris, but realizing I was more of a Chris Farley.
I know, but one time, dude, you were a bodybuilder in the military, so I know you had, you were chasing the girls then.
Well, I wasn't chasing the boys.
Oh, that's a good thing. Don't be like liberal Steve. No, this is a serious thing, dude. I feel like I've lost my edge because by now somebody should have come out and said, Ronnie sort of harassed me and made me feel uncomfortable, and nobody said a thing.
So you're worried about people coming back and getting you very similar to how they got Matt Lauer?
No, dude, I think you're not reading me right. I'm not really worried about it. I was sort of hoping it would happen so I could fit in with all these, the guys that are shucking and driving.
Shucking and driving?
No, shucking and driving, man. Like the guys that are making things happen, the dudes that are like on top of it. And I feel like I've lost my mojo.
Well, maybe you have.
I know. That's why I'm calling you, dude. If there's any girls out there that have had an experience you didn't...
This isn't Dial-A-Date. Thank you for the call, sir. Let's go to Liberty Linda at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Liberty Linda.
Yes, good morning, Kevin.
I was trying to figure out where he was going.
Who, Ronnie?
Yes, Ronnie.
I don't think we, most of the time, don't. Anyway, in regard to the missile being shot off yesterday, what I actually understand is that we have such technology that the instant a missile is launched, we know exactly where it is aimed for in its trajectory. And so we knew instantly it wasn't aimed at us. And then also, the belief is that they are taunting us to fire a missile so that they will actually know what the technology is that we do have. And I think that's why our president's not afraid, but doesn't want to fire off a missile at this time. If you understand what I'm saying.
Well, I think it's going to take more than a missile. I think you're going to have to go in there and wipe them out. That's easier said than done.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And our president doesn't want to fire anything because then they will understand the actual technology we do have.
That's where you disagree with Sean Hannity. He thinks we should be shooting down everything.
Well, I think we have to be extremely, extremely careful with this situation of whom is firing these missiles over there. We don't know exactly how this man is thinking, so we're fearful of that. And yet we don't want to show the technology we actually have because we are the strongest nation on this earth. And so I'm thankful that our president is careful of that. In regard to the other issue, the Indians yesterday, I understand that there was a picture of Andrew Jackson hanging in that room. And, wow, I don't think that was a good thing to happen, inviting the Indians in, if we know our history. Had you heard about that, Kevin?
Well, I heard the president said Pocahontas, and they didn't think it was a bad deal, the code breakers and such. So. Right.
Anyway, I love our American Indians, and I just think it was wrong that there was a picture of Andrew Jackson hanging in that room. Somebody didn't know.
He wasn't a nice man to them. We'll go back to the Trail of Tears.
Right. And so someone should have caught that. Yeah. Anyway, that's what I had to say about that. And I think our president knows what he's doing. He is a very intelligent person. And so I think he's doing the right thing and not alerting other nations to actually the technology we do have in missiles. And so I think that was, he knows what he's doing. So I feel confident in him. And so anyway, and yesterday I didn't have a question for Russ. I apologize because I already studied the issues, Kevin. And I was very, very happy that I felt that Russ Fulcher was the man for the job. So I apologize for not having a question for him, but I was very happy that I already made that decision.
Liberty Linda, thank you very much.
Thank you, Kevin, and you have a wonderful day.
You too, ma'am. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, coming up next, North Korea and Matt Lauer and you with Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Matt Lauer getting fired from the Today Show. More allegations rolling out of Capitol Hill. You have Congressman Conyers hanging on, Senator Franken hanging on. It's interesting that NBC News has a greater grasp on the issues than our elected officials. I think it'd be the other way around. Let's go to Joe in Meridian with Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Joe.
Morning, Kevin. How are you today?
Always good to hear someone who's fired up. And you, sir?
Doing great. God keeps blessing me every day. Hey, I wanted to talk to you about this missile launch with North Korea and just a few thoughts there. I agree with some of the comments of I think it was Liberty Linda, but I also feel like at some point you got to make a stand, and you can't rely on your defensive mechanisms or sometimes, what coalition you can bring behind you. You just have to go out and protect your nation. And I think Trump's getting close to that point. I think he's not going to tip his hand and tell us exactly what he's going to do. But my feeling is we need to go in there and remedy that situation in a permanent way. And that's going to probably involve military action. And I don't think you can wait around for a guy to launch a missile at you and then use your defensive tactics because, they're not 100% likely. You can't tell me that all of them are going to 100% work all the time. And I think you have to look at intent. You got to look at motive. And, is this person ever going to stop? And I don't think he will. So I think there's going to have to be some permanent resolution to this problem.
Well, it certainly won't be easy either.
No. I mean, it's a big sacrifice, and I think, it's hard to say that because you're sending troops into harm's way, but at the same time, that's what the military and that's what our government is partly there for, is to protect the population. And at some point, you got to call a spade and deal with it.
See, I would agree with you on that, Joe. I think all the other administrations have kicked the can down the road, and now it's up to Mr. Trump.
Yep. It's a good thing we got somebody in office who can make good decisions in this realm. I think it's interesting that you have the media portraying him as some person who is flying off the handle when they aren't really giving him credit for studying this issue, relying on experts in the military, and putting himself in a position where he can make an intelligent decision. And I think that, hats off to him for that.
Joe, thank you for the call. Let's get you to traffic.